What up? Welcome to Homegrown Hustle, where local brilliance takes the center stage. I'm your host, Matt Eichmann. Together, we're about to embark on an inspiring journey. Our community thrives on the wisdom of insightful leaders that are right here in our backyard. And we're bringing their expertise to your ears. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur or simply seeking inspiration, this podcast is your guide. Join us every week in celebrating innovation, guidance, and the power to inspire greatness. Let's explore the stories that shape our local business landscape, and together, let's ignite the spark of excellence. What's up, Jonas Olson? Thank you for joining us here on the Homegrown Hustle podcast. One of my close friends, Jonas, CEO of Turf Badger you're based in Michigan now, right? Or is it Wisconsin?
I live in Michigan.
Okay.
Oh yeah, Michigan, Wisconsin.
Also the host of the Pest Control Millionaire podcast. How you doing today, Jonas? Good?
I am absolutely fantastic. I can't complain other than it's a little bit too cold here today, but
That's all right.
we've had a really good winter as
Yeah.
far as weather goes.
Has that been good for business too then? I mean, probably not
definitely-
doing a lot of lawn care now, but the pest side of your business maybe.
Yeah, I would say that, cancellations tend to slow down just because the weather's nice. When we get big, heavy snowstorms, people like to push off their service. So it definitely helped in that aspect for sure.
Awesome. So, Jonas, you and I know each other pretty well. We go back a few years now,
Yeah.
but for everyone else who isn't familiar with you, could you kind of tell everybody a little bit about yourself and kind of some of your journey that's taken you to where you're at now?
Absolutely. How far do we want to go back here, Matt? Want to go
Where
back to
where
when I
does
first started?
I would say that's a great question. That's a good start, Jonas.
Cool.
So I say we go back to when you kind of first decided to go into business or
Cool. Sure.
start in business, wherever that was in your life. So
Yeah,
bring us back to that moment.
So like I think back to when I was really young. Probably by the time that I was 12, that I knew that I wanted to own a lawn care company in Green Bay, Wisconsin. I lived 3 hours away, so yeah, so I lived 3 hours away, but it's just always my goal. Grew up a big Packer fan. My parents took me down. My grandparents took me down to watch like the Packer practices. We go to lots of games, and I just always wanted to live there, a big city. And so, I was also like in sports, so I was very competitive, and I didn't like to listen to people. Not always the greatest quality. Didn't like to be told what to do all the time. So I just always had that in me. Like I always knew that I was going to do big things in my life. I just didn't know what it was going to be. And
Yeah.
at that time, it was mowing lawns. So I graduated in like '02. I think like that year, me and my buddy tried to start up a lawn care business down in his basement, and we had great ideas. We had it all put together, and it never really went anywhere because we were both broke. So fast forward probably like 5 or 6 years, I got a job at the Carpenters Union, and I was working Monday through Thursday, and I was young. I was 23, 24, something like that, and I saved up enough money to buy my first lawnmower. And right when I was just when I bought my mower, one of my best friends called me. He was getting out of the industry. He said, "Hey, I have this account that we need to come check out because I'm getting out of the industry. Want to know if you want to take it over?" So I went and did an estimate. Didn't have a clue what I was doing. Thankfully, he was there to help me, and I got my first job. It was like it was a business, commercial business, and then I got their 2 houses along with it and started mowing grass. And then from there, it's just I did my grandma's house, and then I did like her neighbor's house, knocked some doors in the neighborhood, got some more business. Cool story about all that. Fast forward to 2021 when I sold the company. That customer that I was telling you about still an active customer. So it was pretty cool story, like just going through that journey. I learned a ton through my first company. I think when we sold it, we were doing like 2.9 million. But along the way, I learned a lot. I got some really good mentors like 5, 6 years in. It's pretty slow growth at the beginning. And then again, found some really good mentors that showed me that there was a big world out there. And going back to it, like I always knew that I was going to do big things. I didn't have the vehicle to take me where I wanted to go. And COVID hits in 2020, and you guys probably all remember those days. It was a really weird time. And in Michigan, I should say, we literally got shut down. It was super weird. So I had the lawn care company. We were doing snow removal. Probably had $1 million in assets for equipment, and had a long winter. But when I say long winter, it was not a lot of snow, just cold, and It's just one of those off years, and good thing I had some contracts to get me through. I get through winter, we're getting ready to go rock and roll for lawn care, and it's like March 16th, my daughter's birthday, and COVID hits and shuts us down. So I didn't know what to do really. Run out of cash pretty quick.
Mhm.
I was in through winter, not making a lot of money. And so the border of Wisconsin was 45 minutes away. And I decided that I was going to go knock doors in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and go try to sell some stuff. I didn't care if it was aerations, I didn't care if it was fertilization weed control, and I didn't really care if it was pest control. And I was like, but I got to do something. This is like June of 2021. I wasn't really sure what to do April, May, like
Mhm.
there's a real pandemic. Like I didn't really know. I don't think anyone knew what to do. So I started knocking doors, and I didn't have anyone teach me how to do it. I had no clue. It was just YouTube University trying to figure it out. And I remember walking up to my first door, and I about threw up. I was gonna be honest with you. And then I walked away from the door, took a deep breath, walked back up, and I knocked on the door. And I actually sold my first pest control account. And I was like, oh, okay, well that wasn't so bad. And so that's how that journey started. And I think by the end of August, it was me and another guy, and I was servicing the accounts. He was helping me sell, so we were both selling and servicing accounts. We had like 400 and some odd accounts my first year, and so 20. I started, so I started to get pretty good at it. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm just gonna go recruit a team, and then that off season, I went and built a team of like 5 or 6 guys. You met James, obviously, and then I got Dylan and Matt at the same time, and we all hit the ground running in 2021. I think our first year we went from like 200 and some thousand or 300 some thousand all the way up to like 850,000 our first year, 900,000 somewhere. I can't really remember. Maybe it was even a million. I don't remember. And that's
Mhm.
just how it started. So at the end of 2021, I had, obviously Michigan started cranking back up in like June, I'd say too. So that business is rolling. My business was rolling down in Wisconsin, but I like the scalability of the pest control side and knocking doors and the fertilization weed control. And there's just less overhead. You could pay people
Mhm.
more. It was faster growth. And us being entrepreneurs, we like the speed of growth, obviously, right?
Oh, yeah.
It obviously isn't always perfect. So at the end of 2021, I had to sit there and like, okay, I have two businesses. They're doing two different things, but my heart's just into the new thing. And so I decided to sell my first company back at home and go all in on pest control. And that brings us to almost up to date. We're 2024 now, so there's a few years in there between, but we just kept scaling the pest control business. Last year we had 4 locations, and then this year
Now you
May
got
1st we'll
9.
have nine. Yeah, this year May 1st will be up to 9. So we've definitely been moving fast. Again, I have a great team. I built a great team around me. I got a killer on the operations side. I got some great office staff. I got great CSRs. I have great sales leaders. So I built a really good team. Without those guys, I definitely wouldn't be where I'm at today for sure.
I mean, that's a that's even a faster trajectory in the pest space than I thought, but, like, you've had a few business experiences,
Yeah,
and then there's a few things that came up in those stories that I just wanted to point out a little bit. So one
for sure.
was access to capital, money, right? That came up in a few different things, but
Hmm.
also partnerships, right?
Yeah.
Both like
Yep.
those two things for you, they've been like they they've been issues for every business owner, right? Having access to capital is one of the limiting factors for us, but then also like the partnership side of things, which I think is kind of a unique way to how you handle business. Could you talk a
Yeah.
little bit about how you think about that now versus how you thought about that first partnership you had in
For sure.
when you were running the
So
basement lawn care business?
yeah, so that deal, like with my buddy Dan, back in the day, never
Mhm.
we never really did anything. We just were gonna go do it. We didn't do anything when I started back up. I was just doing it myself. But through that journey of my first company, Matt, I lost a lot of really good people, and it's because in that industry, which even maybe in your company too, like when you get someone that's an absolute rock star, they just kind of
Mhm.
cap out, right? And so I lost a lot of really good people back in the day, and I was like, man, I really wish I could have kept those. How could I have kept those? And how could I avoid that mistake in the second business? So the way that I looked at it is like, okay, well, instead of them going to start their own thing, why can't we do something together that's a win-win for both parties? I know we already
Mhm.
had everything built out. All they would have to do is just go execute their own company. We would help them do it. So when I sold that company and started back over, again, I got those really good leaders in early
Mhm.
and got super lucky with those guys. And that's the way I looked at it from that point on. I was like, okay, how can I how can I help mentor these guys? And then, you know, skip the learning curve that I went through the last 12 years to make them be a part of something faster and bigger. So that's what I did. I helped them open up their own branches. I gave them some equity and partnerships and, help them build it out and avoid all those mistakes that I made
Mhm.
early on. And so, like, one good example is one of my first sales guys, he went from 0 to 750,000 from May 1st to September 1st.
That's a good
So his
sales
first year, they
guy.
did yeah. So they did $750,000 in revenue their first year in their first office. So
Mhm.
it was just cool to see, and that's probably what I enjoy most of now. And my thought around that too, Matt, is that the more people that I can help become successful, ultimately will be make me successful. And I get more
Mhm.
gratitude looking at those guys, thinking like, look how great they're doing.
Yeah, I think that's really where you and I align, Jonas. Is I mean, we both have had our own successes, right? But
Yeah,
in general, like it's not about that personal success so much as it is about helping other people do those things.
right.
So one thing I know about you is that y- you're a really good recruiter and a really good coach.
Yeah,
Um, I also know that you've done some coaching for wrestling, right? Are there
yeah,
Did you coach
yeah,
other
yeah.
stuff too?
No, but I've been involved with wrestling since I was 3 years old.
Okay.
So I've had 10, 20, 30,000 hours of mat time. And then I decided, so then I was just naturally good because I had so much mat time. And I
Mhm.
was athletic, but that was a long time ago. But so when I got back into wrestling, I started coaching our high school team. I coached our high school team for 4 year or 5 years. 3 of those 5 years, we went to state finals for our team.
Mhm.
And then, then my daughter decided that she was going to wrestle. And I've invested a lot of time and energy into
Mhm.
her and in her career. And it was super cool. Last Sunday, she was out of town into Florida. I was in Alabama because she had the weekend off.
Mhm.
And they give away the Wrestler of the Year award. It's called the Elena Burby Award. And it's the top female athlete of the year.
Mhm.
And we were both out of town. And it was super cool that they called and said that she had won it. So it was pretty cool.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, so I actually graduated with Elena, and she went on to wrestle in the Olympics. So it's a pretty cool.
That's cool. So it like
Yeah,
brings it all like
yeah,
full
all back
circle there
together.
for you.
It's pretty cool. So yeah, I
That's a
love
cool
to
story.
coach. Yeah, so I love to coach kids, young kids, my daughter, and then obviously my team. I
So
invest a lot of my time into them.
yeah, so what are the biggest similarities that you see from coaching like athletics to coaching and building your team that
Yeah,
you've built out and you're so
there's a
grateful
lot.
for?
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a lot there. And what I've noticed is that the better athlete that they were, the better that they are on the sales side too. Like they're just a different type of discipline, right? So let's just say they play D1 or D2 anything. Like
Mhm.
it's a different mindset than a person who was like really good in high school because they woke up, they did the things they went to the gym at 5 a.m. to
Mhm.
do 5,000 shots of basketball to become Kobe Bryant type thing, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. They put the
And so
work
they
in
they
like you
put they
said.
put they put the work in, and and so they know what it's like. And then with sports, like, you're not always gonna win. Like, whether it's wrestling, you're by yourself, or whether it's a team sport like football or basketball, you're not always gonna win, and you're gonna have those downtimes. But overcoming those downtimes and coming out the other end a better person, it's kind of like what it
Mhm.
is for my guys too. Like, even with the sales side, like, it gets hard sometimes, but they just know they have the grit, right? That's what I like to say. They have the grit, and they'll push forward, and just makes them better at the end of the day.
How do you define
So
grit?
that's it. I actually wrote this down for my guys. Want me to read it to you?
Hell yeah.
Okay, I wrote this down on the whiteboard, and I have three different things around grit that I wrote down. Give me a second, put up on my phone. I thought I was like just sitting down there taking notes, and I was like, what does grit really mean? And so I wrote it down what I think grit means to me. Grit is passion and perseverance for very long term goals. And I put grit is living life like it's a marathon, not a sprint. That's actually a quote that I taken online. And then I put, and you probably, I don't know if you saw me post this the other day on my story, but I put effort plus skill leads to achievement, and effort counts double.
Hmm.
Because, like, again, you can have all the skill in the world, but if you don't apply it, it doesn't worth anything. Kind of like reading books. Like, you can have all the information in the world, but if you don't go apply the thing, it's useless.
You gotta
So
do shit. Like, you have to go
yeah,
out there
so
and do it.
exactly. So like the guys that are different, they're gonna be the dudes that wake up at 7 a.m., hit the gym, and they're on the doors by 8 o'clock, and
Mhm.
they pack a lunch, right? They put it in their car, or they'll shove it along the tree line. They'll come back and eat it for lunch and stay out there till 10:30 at night. Those guys are different. I can't teach that. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, they can follow me, but at some point they break. And I was just one of those guys. Like I've been doing this for 12 years and never been burnt out a day in my life because my goals are so big that even though the revenue that we're at sounds like it's a big number, but like I feel like we're just getting started.
That's why I love talking with you, Jonas. So that perseverance through the like a lot of hard stuff, right? Because sales is
Yeah,
hard, but I mean,
yeah.
so is athletics, and that's what makes
So
it.
yeah.
Yeah, so they're all kind of intertwined with that like competitive nature, right? So what I've
Hmm.
seen in myself that I carry over from sports to business is like the rate at which I can accept a failure and move past it, right?
For
Like those
sure.
micro
Yeah.
failures that we have to have, as long as we're learning from them and not just being ignorant to them.
Yeah.
When you're okay with that and you can do that, you can be like a really good salesperson. And then
Agreed.
that coupled with just the amount of time and energy input. I mean, you were talking about, uh, I don't know, you said a crazy amount of hours that you had mat time. You were good just
Hmm.
because you dedicated more time to it than other people. Would you agree with that?
Oh, that and yeah, for sure. But I was also I loved it, right? Kind
Mhm.
of like I love business and love sales. I loved
Mhm.
sports, wrestling, and so I started when I was 3 years old. I weighed 27 pounds. I started really young. My brother and my sister all wrestled, so I was just there. So my parents like, well, you might as well wrestle too. But I
Mhm.
loved it. Like I was the kid who you couldn't burn out. Like I could wrestle all year round. My parents would travel over the country, Pennsylvania, Kansas City, all over the place, just sending me to camps, and I just loved it. So like it was
Just and
fun for
that's
me.
just like pure passion, right? And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
I see that coming through in your business
yeah,
and the energy that you put into your team. So you touched briefly a little while ago on like how big your goals are, right? I
yeah,
don't know if I've ever really heard exactly what your big goals are, or at least
yeah,
not in the last couple months at least.
for
Like,
sure. So
so where are you
I've
going with this?
so I want to have 100 plus locations, more or less 200 locations to hit 100 million in revenue. And
Mhm.
I said that since day one when when I started Turf Badger, that was my goals. And a lot of things could change from here till then. I got a long ways to go, and a lot of things can happen. But I said I was going to go on a 20-year run with this thing and just see what happens. And it usually takes a decade to build anything, and we're 3, 4 years in, 3.5 years in, and we've made some pretty
Mhm.
good headway.
Pretty good headway. Yeah, I'd say so, Jonas. So th- you're also incredibly humble, and another
Yeah.
similarity that I see between you and I is like how quickly you move past the success that you also have. Like, not that you move past it and don't recognize it, but you're like reciting in like so quickly that you it's just like, what do you think about when you're doing that? Like, when you go through an achievement and now you're just
Mhm.
like, "Okay, well, let's get back to work."
Yeah, I struggle here, Matt, because
Mhm.
I don't like to stop and give myself a pat on the back and celebrate the small wins. Like
Yeah,
I really struggle with that. I really do.
same, like, big
So
time.
something that I have to get better at. Like it
Mhm,
is nice to like I'm always chomping at the bit to grow and work hard. But then I look back and I'm like, oh, if I took myself out of the business for the last year and then came back, I'd be like, holy crap, the thing has really changed. Like they've done a lot of
mhm,
big things, but when you're in it day to day, you kind of tend to look at it differently. So I got to
mhm.
get better at that for sure. Celebrating the small wins because to me they're so small, right? Um,
Yeah,
that they just don't mean a whole lot, but to their
so
team they love it. So I have
and
to get better at that.
and that's, like, the more important thing. So you say, "I
Yeah.
have to get better at it." Are you saying that because in order to be the leader and coach that you are, you've identified that your team requires that of you?
Yeah, so instead of just saying, "Hey, let's go," and I feel like last year I got better at this too, but like instead of like, "Hey, it's a Monday, we should be out there killing it," right?
Mhm.
Let's just take a day, let's reset, let's all go down the river for a day and let's go floating. So instead of putting on a bunch of revenue, which is ultimately what I want to do. Like, okay,
Yeah, same.
let's take a Sunday, Monday to go have some fun with the boys to
Hmm.
really build and connect the team and work on culture too. So
And when you have such a young team that's
that's
all
what it
like
is too.
full throttle individuals
Yeah.
too, like some of those guys are going to burn the candle on both ends anyway. But when you can create a culture of like success and fun together,
Mhm.
there's so much power behind that, right? And like for myself, like identifying that sometimes you get more output by not giving input for a period of time, right? And
Yeah.
either celebrating or just giving some time to rebalance and refocus. It allows you that when you get back out there and you've gone through that recovery, now you can perform at even a higher level.
For sure,
Um,
and then you build that bond with those guys, right?
mhm,
That by the end of the summer, like, they're willing to run through a wall with you, you know?
mhm,
So, like, you get to connect with them more one-on-one, and they wanna spend time with the CEO that they don't always get to see, so just put in the effort to get to know the guys, spend a little time with them,
mhm.
have some fun, showing them like, "Hey, like, yeah, this is all about business, but, we can still enjoy this thing along the way."
Yeah. So going back to like when you first started going and knocking doors
Yeah.
in Green Bay, could you talk about like the evolutions that you had to make or have as a individual in order to
Oh, for sure.
do
This is
like
a
be at
great
the
topic.
level that your business needed from you?
For sure. I'm gonna take a step back from there. Like, even when I was young, like, if you told me that I couldn't go do something, like, I was gonna do it. Like, here's a good example. Like, when I was in high school as a sophomore or freshman, the coach told me that I was a really good running back, but by the time that I was a senior, because I was so small, that I'd never be a running back on varsity. On varsity, I started junior year, senior
Mhm.
year as a running back in both sides of the ball, actually. So it's just always those things I was very determined to prove people wrong. Probably because like it's the short man syndrome. You know what I mean? Like I always had to be bigger. I always had to be stronger. I always had to be faster. I
Mhm.
always had to outwork the people. And so a lot of that stuff from when I was young, and I had brothers and sisters that we'd literally just fight every day in the living room. Like that's
Mhm.
just what we do for fun. Like we'd have boxing matches, people were allowed to punch in the face or blow the belt. So this is how I was raised. And on the weekends we were playing sports. And so just kind of give a background. So when I get to 2020 and COVID hits and like I have that stuff in me, like that, like last, 34 years, whatever it was at that time,
Mhm.
to develop myself. But that year was a significant year because I knew that I had to change in order for the business to change. And so 2021 is actually the year that I stopped drinking, like, completely. Like, I didn't drink a lot before that, but even if it's 1 or 2 times a week or twice a month or whatever it might have been, I got ultra focused on what I wanted to do
Mhm.
with my life, and I stopped drinking alcohol. I finished 75 hard. I started doing really hard stuff, so, like, when I went and knocked doors, it was hard, but relatively hard compared to what I have been doing. It wasn't hard at all. So just doing really like I always say, like, I don't want to spur on your podcast, but do hard shit. I say it
Hell
all the
yeah.
time to my guys. Go jump in the lake when it's frozen. I don't care. Do hard shit. Go run outside and it's freezing cold. Like put yourself to the test because then when you go out there in the summer, it's not that hard. Is it really hard to go knock doors? No, it's not. Like people might think it is, but relatively hard to compared to what? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Go work
I
a 40-hour a week job and be miserable for the rest of your life and then go to knock doors. Like, to me,
well,
it's way more fun to
yeah.
go knock doors and make
Well, and
money.
it all depends on what your goals are too, right? So your goals are so big. Like, let's get back to the original question. Sorry. So the evolutions that you had to have, like, were there stages that you've gone through? I know a few years ago when we were on a call, you were talking about like building out your C suite,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And there was an iteration of your business before that. So there's that massive transformation that you went through when you decided to stop drinking,
Mhm.
and just started engaging in these difficult things like
Yeah.
taking a cold shower, cold
Yep.
plunge, like the exercising the David Goggins muscle, right? Like
Exactly. Yeah.
just like that intense shit. So how do you train that or how do you teach that? Like throwing it out
Well,
there, like
yeah.
there's a certain type of people that's just going to be so off put by it. In
Yeah.
your own mind, do you just like completely not even think about that because
You
you're so
don't.
focused on building the team and anyone
Yeah.
who digs it is going to buy in?
Exactly. So like a lot of the team in the off season will, not a lot. There's a few that people that actually that work out every single day. So like if you look at we have like a chat for the entire team,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a whole fitness group. So if I'm not setting the example in the fitness group, how can I expect them to?
Hmm.
But a lot of some of the guys will come work out with me, and David, if he's listening to this, the last 2 times that he came up worked out with me, he's puked both times.
That's
That
how you
pushed him
know it's a
hard.
good workout. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. If you're doing an ab workout and a leg workout and you puke, you know it's a good workout.
Yeah, and freaking crazy wrestlers too. You guys used to like just not swallow your own spit and stuff to
Right?
make weight. Like
Yep.
y'all some wild people. So I'm not surprised not surprised you're doing stuff like that, Jonas.
Yeah.
Man, so that
But
so
I
where
run a really tight schedule. Like on my calendar, I have to live by the calendar because otherwise I just kind of get lost and I never know what's
same,
going on. Otherwise, it's just chaos for me. Like with me, I'm just chaos all the time. Like
same. So
don't need to go to the
when
rabbit
did you
hole.
make that shift? Like the time management and like because I had a similar shift and I want to hear a little bit about like if that
So
has always been a thing for you or if there was like a
no.
period of time where the chaos was just like what the heck? It can't always be like this. And then
I I
you
think
read a book that told you, or what?
Matt, you know me super well, and my life is just chaos. And I'm the type of guy, like before the podcast, you and I were talking. I'm the type of guy. Like last weekend, I flew down to Alabama for a lawn care conference that I was
Mhm.
speaking at, but I didn't even have a hotel room. I got the flights like the day before. That's just how I live my life, and so I don't know if any of you guys have done a Colby test. It's like a personality test.
Mhm.
I'm a quick start and a super high and quick start, but I live off of it. Like I
Mhm.
thrive in that situation. Like if I had to, it hurts my head to schedule stuff. But it got to the point where I was like, like it's complete chaos. So like when I got there, like I typed in the hotel and I'm going to the wrong hotel. It's a whole big deal. But so I just really live off like during the week, Monday through Friday, off my calendar because it just hurts
Mhm.
my head. I'll be driving around town on the phone and I'll just be lost in my own town. Like where am I?
No, dude, I've
uh,
been there.
or I'll
So
pass that same exit 6 times because I'm on the phone, not paying attention.
so
That's just
then
my life.
in order so when you're not in the just making shit happen type type of mindset, but you are putting stuff on your calendar,
Oh yeah,
what are the things that currently go on your calendar? Like as a CEO of a
yeah,
massive company with a
yeah,
massive sales team, where do you put your time right now?
yeah. That's a great question, Matt. So the gym is actually on my schedule, even though I don't really have to look at that. But the gym is on there every single day, same exact time. My
Are you a
sales meetings
morning
are
or evening guy?
morning for sure. I get all my, I have my, we follow EOS, so
Mm,
all my EOS meetings on there. I say all because we run one for all of us, for one company, but then we also do a separate meeting for each location right now. So that takes up a majority of my day.
so you're running company-wide, is it full company meetings or is it
No,
leadership
just the
focused?
executive. Yep, just leadership
Gotcha.
focused. Yep.
And then within the branch, what's the
So
people
typically, it's just
involved?
it'll be like the branch manager and the partner, and they'll jump on with me. And I'm not on every single one because I can't because there's a lot. But our director of operations, she'll jump on there, and then our
Mhm,
CFO jumps on there too to go over some stuff and go over data from the week prior. So so those are all on there. Obviously, my podcasts are on there.
mhm.
These kind of podcasts are on there. I shoot a lot of content too, so I have one day that I just focus on just strictly content. So that's pretty much what my life looks like now. We also have sales meetings in the morning for our inside sales team.
Mhm.
So from like 9 to 10, and then we have our meeting from 10 to 11 with our door to door team or B2B team. And then on the off season on Tuesday and Thursday nights, we do an hour long sales training then too. So it's busy. So, but if
Yeah,
I didn't
but
have that on my
structured,
schedule, I'd be
right?
lost.
It's busy, but
Yeah.
structured. It's not
Yeah. But then it's like, hey, pick up the kids at 3 o'clock reminder too. So there's those in there.
gotcha. So
Otherwise, I'll forget my kids.
yeah.
Like true story.
Freaking Jonas.
I'll get
Well,
that 10-minute reminder.
it's funny because I know how good of a dad Jonas is not a bad dad. Jonas is a
No.
very good and focused father. But that sentence taken out of context, just want to
Yeah,
make sure everyone understands that. So,
for sure.
so Jonas, tell us a little bit about your podcast. And you've interviewed some of the top minds in pest and lawn care.
Yeah.
In a lot of different areas. Why did you start that, and what have you learned from those conversations you've had?
I've learned a lot, and the goal, honestly, Matt, I'm gonna write a book, a podcast, like Pest Control Millionaire book
Mhm.
podcast, because there's so much valuable information that I'm learning. That's why I did it. I'm learning at the same time as everyone, all the listeners are learning, and I think that's why that grew so fast because we're all wanting to learn and grow together. So
Mhm.
the whole point of the podcast was to, it's an old industry, and I want to flip it upside down and put it on its face and bring it to 2024. And I also want everyone else to learn and level up the entire industry together.
Yeah.
So that was the
A
goal
lot of
behind
fun.
it. Yeah, and also I get to learn at the same time, so that's the selfish side of it.
Mhm.
And we also franchise too. So, just getting our name out there, getting my name out there, branding myself, kind of like what you're doing, branding the company and just showing that we're a pretty good influence in the industry and that we do know
And
what
a
we're
real
talking about.
brand, right?
Right.
So I'm surprised we didn't even talk on the franchise model. Tell us a little bit about that and where that came from.
So that's another awesome question. I love it. So again, going back to helping others, right?
Mhm.
Like I can help my sales team and I can help my partners grow, but what's going to slow us down is the people aspect like that are out there. So we can only bring in, so many sales guys, get them trained up, have them hit their revenue goals over 2 years to go open
Mhm.
up new markets, right? Well, this
Mhm.
way, like if I have someone that's maybe already in the industry that's starting out, that they're kind of small, that want to be part of a bigger brand, we'll help them grow. Or if there's someone who is looking to just get in and wants their own marketplace, like there's a lot to the franchise itself. Like what I learned through the whole thing though, Matt, is that even if I never sold a single franchise in my life, what I learned through that process, the structure, how to run a multi-unit company was
Mhm.
was worth its weight in gold.
Tell me more.
Just like on how to not just like, like 'cause we have a whole call center built out for all locations. So that was part of the deal and how to bill each office separately, how to invoice them for overhead, like just all these things that I never really thought through.
Mhm.
And then like brand standards, how to keep everything the same. Where you're gonna, buy your products from and just the whole product line. I learned so much through that process, and I don't care if I never sold a franchise ever, although that's the goal. What we learned through that 6 7 month process was definitely worth its weight in gold in the money that we spent. It was just a big undertaking and trademarking and trademarking colors,
You have to
trademarking the
do a bunch
logos,
of
like
stuff just to get to the
yeah,
point to where you can transact and start selling
yeah, and it's that,
franchises.
and so then we have to be, we have to be licensed in every state, so we're licensed in all 50 states, so the ones that
Holy
you have to be
crap.
licensed in. Yeah, so there's just a lot to it. So it's not like say, hey, I'm gonna go franchise tomorrow and do a franchise. It's a big undertaking. It's a lot of paperwork and lots of learning. So the money that I spent, again, I would do it over again, just to learn what I
Mhm.
learned from those companies because
Well,
they built some very massive brands.
yeah, so I won't ask you how much you had to spend to do that on air. We can talk about that later, but I know it's not cheap from a
Yeah,
financial standpoint, but the time standpoint, you just said 6 months. For a guy
yeah,
like you, 6 months is a lot of time because you move really, really fast. Was that hard for you? Like,
frustrating,
frustrating because you couldn't,
very,
like, get to that point where you're getting wins,
very.
right? How
Yeah, very,
so
very hard for me.
was there ever a point where we're about to walk away and say, "Screw it, not gonna do this," or were you so focused on that goal that it didn't matter?
I think that I have such a great team
Mhm,
around me that they pick up the slack maybe where I leave a little off the
mhm.
table. They like, they're good where I'm not. So all the detailed paperwork, like if I had to do that all myself, Matt, it never got done.
Yeah, you're not a paperwork kinda guy.
No, that detail oriented person sit in front of an office or a computer,
Yeah.
like that's just not how I operate. But I got some amazing people that are very, very good at their job.
So, if Jonas Olson in 2024 could go back to the 2002, just out of high school,
Yeah,
Jonas Olson, and give him a few lessons, what would those be?
great question. I would say think bigger, find a mentor sooner, and know your numbers, and believe in yourself. Because I got lost for a little bit after high school. Like I should have went to college to wrestle, but I stayed behind for a girl, and I kind of lost myself for 5 or 6 years, and then I found myself again, and I found like business was like I was so passionate. So
Mhm.
I could think all the way through high school, grade school, middle school, whatever. Like I think I've checked out one book in my life. the entire time. Now, like I'm reading one book a week, maybe one book every 2 weeks. And I just can't get enough information.
Man, I forgot how many similarities you and I had here, Jonas. So anyone who's listening to this podcast, if there was one thing you would want them to walk away and go and implement, or just think about, like, what would that be?
I'll say it again, just believe in yourself. Like, man,
Okay.
I've met some massive influencers that
Yeah.
everyone would know on this podcast. And I met them in
Mhm.
person. And when I met them in person, all I could think about is if this person can pull this off, there is no reason I can't.
It's like a new
And
benchmark.
yeah, it was like just wasn't super
Mhm.
impressed. I'm like, like it's just like believe in yourself. Yeah, you can do it. Just put yourself out there. There's nothing like what's the worst that could happen?
Do
So I
like
put myself in that situation a lot.
Yeah, like back to the do hard shit. Like, in
Yeah,
order to do that, you have to believe in yourself. So
like
for
this whole world is a mindset thing. Like it is 100% is. Like I
and
always
then
say
just
to
how
my
you
guys,
attack
even in
it.
sales, it's 90% mindset and 10% skill.
Bro, I love you. You're a beautiful man, Jonas. So before I let you go and we do the whole outro, got one question that we ask everybody that we bring on here.
Cool.
If you had to define hustle in terms of business, how would you define that word?
Man, I think from 0 to a million is effing hard. And like Matt, like there is no days off.
Mm-hmm.
So if I had to define hustle, man, it's from dark to dark and even after dark. There like, it's the 2, 3 a.m. where you wake up and you go to sleep thinking about
Yeah.
something. You wake up at 3 a.m. thinking about the same thing. You jump out of bed and you go work on that thing because you want to get it done. Like the first few years are tough. And everyone
Mhm.
thinks it's like overnight success. Yeah, it's like overnight success after 12 years, like every single day grinding.
Every single
And
day, you
most people
gotta be on the
and most
mat.
people and most people quit.
Mm.
It's like going to the gym. They go to the gym for the first 4 weeks, they don't see a difference. So like, oh well, maybe I'll put in another week. Okay, well another week goes by, they don't see a difference, so they quit. Or they'll start seeing a difference, like, oh well, I don't have to come back anymore, and they'll quit again. It's not like
Mhm.
that. It's like the gym. Just be consistent and show up every single day, Monday through Sunday, no days off. And most people can't do it,
They can't. That consistency, man,
and that's just
I
why we're
love
different.
it. So, Jonas Olson, man, we gotta talk more. It's been way too long. I know you're a busy man. You got a gajillion locations going on. Crazy podcast with lots of good pest control specific guests on there, obviously, but also I think you've interviewed some people in the tech space and things like that as
Yeah.
well. So
Yeah, we have
check
some we have
that
some pretty
out.
big names coming up. It'll be fun.
Yeah, I can't wait. So anyone that wants to get a hold of Jonas, either for Pest Control Millionaire or just to see about any opportunities he has with Turf Badger, how would they get in touch with you, Jonas?
Yeah, it's super easy. Just, go find me on Facebook at just Jonas Olson. Instagram is Jonas Olson Official.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty easy to find me on there. I'm pretty active on my phone and social media, so I tend to respond pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And again, even if you just have a question, like just come
Yeah.
up and ask because that's what we're here for. Like I was at that conference this past weekend and it was geared towards like smaller companies and
Mm-hmm.
like they were afraid to come talk to me. And like just like but that's what they're there for. They see my bald head maybe.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
know.
All
So I
right,
just like
man.
just come talk to me and I'll help you. Like that's what I'm here for.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I love about you. I've just fallen deeper and deeper in love with you here today, Jonas. But like, you have such a giving heart, and it's very
Yeah.
endearing. And I'm not surprised that there's so many people that want to come and be part of your team because you're coming from such a pure place of like caring and
Yeah.
supporting the growth in other people.
And my mentor was the same way. And
Mhm.
he is by far the deepest pockets that I've ever met, and you would never know. He is the most genuine, good-hearted soul that you'd ever meet. And then I also know some people that do just as much that are complete opposite. So I always told
Yeah.
myself when I started to make it, I was making a come up.
Mhm.
I want to be the person like my mentor was.
That's awesome, man. Well, thanks again for coming on the Homegrown Hustle, Jonas. We'll chat soon, man.
It's
Have a
been fun. I
great rest of
appreciate
your
it.
day, dude. Stay in touch. Keep crushing it.
Yeah, you too. I appreciate you.
Yep. Have a good one.
Bye.
Thanks again for joining us on Homegrown Hustle. Our local business community thrives because of the brilliant leaders right here in our backyard. and it's been an absolute privilege to provide them with a platform to share their invaluable expertise. Stay tuned for more insight, wisdom, and inspiration from our local business champions. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Together, we'll continue to nurture and expand our homegrown success stories. Matt Eichmann signing off until our next insightful episode.